What is up? It's Money Shots. It's Thursday. Now, I know normally we're here on Mondays and Wednesdays, but Che, with the big brain, said, why would we do Wednesday when, the NBA Finals game one is Thursday? So I said, okay, I just finished doing a TikTok. You guys should be very proud of me because I'm way too old to be doing TikToks, but here I am trying to make you guys betters. And somebody commented on the blue light glasses, so I said, screw it. I'm just going to wear them for the show so me and Steven Cheah can match. I don't know how I really feel about them. They're kind of hard to see out of, but supposedly they're better for your eyes. We're going to find out. All right, Che, game one. This is a kind of a weird finals, if you will. I was at my niece's house in Denver. I was there for a wedding 2 weeks ago. Her boyfriend said, I heard you say on video that you really thought the Nuggets had a shot to win the West. I said, yeah. And he goes, what do you think still? I said, yeah, I like this team. They haven't played for over a week now. And then they're playing against a Heat team that blew a 3-0 lead and was forced a game 7. They've had a gauntlet in the Eastern Conference. There's a lot of interesting storylines here, but I'm actually happy it's the Heat. I think this is a matchup that at one point in time, when everything got released, I think it was 14-1 to happen at the Barstool Sportsbook. At least that was a ticket I saw floating around. I like to see some new blood. No offense to Lakers fans or anybody else fans, but this is kind of a newer thing, if you will, right? I've seen the Nuggets in the playoffs, of course. We've seen the Nuggets get to the Western Conference Finals, but to get to the finals has just kind of been a tough road for this team, including Jokic. And right now he's the finals MVP, Che, minus 335 to win it at the Barstool Sportsbook. I am kicking myself. I said, all right, before game 7, it was like minus 152 for the Nuggets to win the whole thing. And I'm like, God.
Minus 139 for Jokic MVP, which I took.
Yes. And now they are massive favorites, and I'm very kicking myself. I'm just frustrated, right? Maybe I should figure out a hedge with Big Ev since he's going to be cheering against Denver. I want Denver to win. But let's break this series down, starting with game 1. Your thoughts. I've got some really good data points on game 1s, but back to the rest versus rust feature. What do you think is actually going to be the case for Denver tonight?
I mean, Denver has been really strong at home. They haven't lost a home game all playoffs, but they haven't played in, almost 2 weeks, 10 days, 11 days, something like that. Miami is beat up. I mean, the 7-game series against the Celtics is no treat. The Knicks, the series before, 6 games. They kind of made quick work of the Bucks in 5. But they've been in some physical series. The East has been superior to the West essentially all year, and they've slayed those Dragons. So I definitely think that the Heat are being undervalued a bit. I actually bet the Heat to win the finals before game 7, 17-1, which the odds were crazy. Or maybe it was 14-1. It might have been 14-1. But something very, very long where it's like, well, I mean, this totally could happen. I don't think I would be crazy surprised. I don't think they have the, who was it? Chris Mannix talking about how Denver's not really like a sexy team. I think in this matchup, they are the sexy team because Miami is not a sexy team. Miami is a slow it down, play tough basketball, Eastern Conference basketball, and they got one real star. I don't think you can call Bam Adebayo a star. He's averaging like 6 points.
Nah, but listen, Bam is a recognizable name. He's not a household name like Jimmy Butler.
He's a recognizable name.
But I think he's recognizable that people are going to know his name. They might not know who he is or which position or which team he plays for, but I guarantee if you asked, 10 people on the street, a couple people would know his name.
If his name was John Smith, I mean, he would be a nobody. His name is Bam Adebayo. It's a very recognizable, memorable.
Sorry, I meant he's a very good
defender.
Player.
He's a very good defender. He's an undersized center who is okay at best at shooting. Doesn't really have range outside of like 18 feet. Can't score in the post. He's a good passer, and he's an okay rebounder, and that's really it. He sets great screens. But if his name was not Bam Adebayo, he would not be like a memorable name guy. He plays good defense, and he's a good player, and I'm not saying that otherwise. But as far as the pizzazz of this series, Bam Adebayo not getting it done for me. But what I will say about the rest versus rush, which is what you're talking about, the Barstool Sportsbook has a great promo, which is correct series score insurance. If you bet a correct series score and it doesn't win, you get up to $10 back if you in Barstool Sports with bonus cash if you opt into that. The Nuggets are overwhelming favorites to win the series, but if you pick the correct score of the series, you have some value there. I think I picked 5 games, and that's plus 250, but all the other ones are in the fours. Like a sweep is like plus 475. I think 6 games is plus 425. And 7 games is right around 400 or 450, something like that. But that is that. If you're a rest versus rust person, that is the bet. Or sorry, that was the correct series score. The other play that I like, rest versus rust, Miami to win tonight, but Denver to win the series, plus 600. If you're a rest versus rust person, that is a good play, because you can get, if you're betting the Nuggets straight up, what's the series price? Like minus 350.
Yeah, it's pricey. It was still going up. I got to open up the Barstool Sportsbook. That's part of my job. Listen, it's been going up all week long, and rightfully so. Like I said, Miami's been through an absolute and utter gauntlet through the Eastern Conference, and it almost is like, I don't want to say easy. That is the wrong word, but it's like they've had a much easier route to the finals than Miami did. That would be the Nuggets. In theory, yeah. The comment section saying, hey, the Nuggets should roll. Yes, I agree with you. They should. That doesn't mean they will. Currently, 8.5 at the Barstool Sportsbook, minus 375 tonight on the money line. Total 218.5. And as you guys know, that's where I'm going to get into things as far as the total of the game goes. That's what I really want to talk to. But I'm trying to find the current futures odds right now to win the whole thing. And it's not favorable for Miami. But winning game 1 is going to be interesting, Che, because you mentioned this is not a Nuggets team that loses at home. We've seen them absolutely be dominant at home. But I asked my buddy Ralph this morning. I said, hey, Ralph, I want to bet the under tonight. We know game 1 teams have covered at a crazy rate, 15-3 against the spread, 16-2 straight up. That is absolutely bananas. That's since 2004. But unders went 8-0 in game 1 until 2010. And then since then, guess what? It has been an over party. And it's kind of made me back off and say, all right, I need to look at this one just a little bit closer. So that's where I'm at as far as this side in total goes. I do agree with the comment section. I do think Denver is going to have a dominant game. But sometimes you have that carryover, right? And Miami had that very dominant game 7 in Boston. So we know that they're not afraid of what I would call hostile environments. It's been a long time since I've been to the Pepsi Center. I'm not going to discredit them, but I'm going to go ahead and say the Garden is probably a little more hostile than Denver from a home court perspective. Che, I know you tweeted out earlier you've got some prop bets up. Do you want to give them to us?
Yeah, so I'll my daily NBA prop. I almost made this my prop of the month. I know it's June 1st. It's a little bit early for that, and I don't like to do things in game 1 of this series. But there is a prop that is undervalued on our book right now. Big plus money, straight up prop. I love it. Incredible data behind it. I was running a lot of numbers last night. I went through each of these teams' game logs for all the postseason, looking at game 1 when they have 3+ days rest, home, road, etc. And there's one prop that really stood out. So looking at the data, Miami averages 10% more assists in game 1 this postseason than any other game this series. It makes sense. Teams are feeling each other out. They're not quite used to each other. They're not quite used to each other's sets, and they have a little bit more freedom. A play that I love tonight, and it's technically an alternate line. The standard line is 5.5 assists for Jimmy Butler. Give me 6.5 assists for Jimmy Butler. Right now, it's plus 143. I got it plus 145 this morning. I expect it to go down a little bit. Well, I'm going to tweet it out very shortly. His primary defender in this series is most likely going to be Aaron Gordon. In his last 10 matchups against Aaron Gordon, he's cleared 7 assists in 9 of them. In his last 5 games against Denver with Nikola Jokic in the lineup, he has cleared 7 assists in all 5 of them, averaging 8.2 assists per game. I think this number is too low. I think 6.5 should be the appropriate number. The fact that you're getting plus 140 anything is incredible. If you want to be a little bit safer, you can move the stool a little bit. I was considering going Jimmy Butler 5.5 assists over, and you can do Miami plus 18.5 for plus money with parlaying those two together. I really, really like this play. Didn't make it the prop of the month only because it's game one, but this is an undervalued play that I think should be hammered by everyone across the board.
Ooh, great. Responsibly, of course. Make sure you guys go check out my TikTok. We'll talk more about responsible gambling. And Tony's right. I totally fumbled that one. It's Ball Arena, but that's how long it's been since I've been there because it was the Pepsi Center the last time I went to a Nuggets game. We'll be at a Heat game, hopefully on, I believe it's Friday. Nope, Wednesday. I'm going to try to go to game 3 if I can stomach it. We'll see how that ends up playing out. That being said, Che, I want to take the under tonight. I know we've got 5+ hours until tip-off, so I've got a little bit of time. I think this one might keep ticking upwards. We did see a 219 earlier on my odds screen, but right now 218.5 on the Barstool Sportsbook. Sometimes we know that recreational bettors tend to bet last minute, so I'm hoping that maybe this one gets ticked up just a little bit. I think my hesitance is more of a recency bias with the Nuggets. We have seen when the Nuggets have a dominant performance, the game typically goes over the total. But as you mentioned, with this Heat team, they really like to stifle their opponents. And that is what we saw them do against the Bucks, against the Knicks, and against the Celtics. They played really hard defense. My big question is, do you think they have an answer for Nikola Jokic? Because Eric Spoelstra sure seems like he thinks he has the answer. And I don't know if anyone has an answer for him.
No, I mean, he's the 2-time MVP of the league, not the reigning MVP, but easily could have been 3 times in a row. Miami really did a nice job against Boston, mixing it up and throwing up zone defenses and mixing those in and playing them for long stretches. You can't do that against, arguably the best passer in the league who can see over everybody. So I don't think that's necessarily a viable strategy for them. Maybe they mix it in a little bit, but for long stretches, you can't play zone against Nikola Jokic. The Nuggets, I think, were the number 1 or number 2 team against the zone in the NBA, averaging I think something crazy, like 1.2 points per possession against it. I would not do that. There's no answer for Jokic. He's going to get his, but how involved are the other guys going to be? Something that I looked at when picking a prop for tonight is Denver Nuggets players going off of 3 days rest. Almost all of them across the board were worse. One guy that I would point to as being a little bit better is Michael Porter Jr. So props for him I kind of like. I also did an analysis of both of these teams in game 1 versus the rest of the playoffs. And something that I would point to, especially if what's the number for the over-under 219?
Currently 218.5. It was 219 earlier today. But listen, I don't know if that's under money coming in, if the Barstool Sportsbook's taking a position because they like the under. That's one of those kind of elusive questions there. And that's kind of what scares me about this total.
Yeah.
To be really
I've got
honest
this game at 229 points. So if you look at
God.
Yeah. If you look at game 1 versus the rest of the series for both of these teams, Miami's almost 9 full points better in game 1 than the rest of the series. Their shooting percentage 5% better. Their 3-point percentage 9 percentage points better. They get more steals, more assists. So I like Miami to score. They're averaging 120 points in game 1s this season, this postseason. Denver also averaging 122 points per game in game 1s. That's 5.5 points better than all the other games this series. Noticeably, their biggest difference is their 3-point shooting. It's 5 percentage points better at 44%. The rebounding is also up. Jokic went crazy against the Lakers, I believe, and the Suns.
Yes, he
boards
did.
And also steals are up. So for those reasons, I lean the over. I have this at like 117, 112, roughly. Denver, we'll see what it comes out to. I do like the Heat to cover tonight. I think it'll be a close game. But yeah, I think this is an over game.
Yeah, I kind of have to wonder if both teams maybe get a little sloppy. As you mentioned, the Nuggets haven't played, and I think it's been almost 10 days. I'd have to double check my calendar. Maybe they come off a little cold. That's kind of what I was looking at here, especially with this Heat defense. But you'd be surprised. Nuggets averaging almost 117 points per game at home this year. that makes me a little apprehensive on touching this one. But I'm with you, Che. I think the Heat keep it up, keep it a little bit closer than expected. I'm not sure they're going to win in Ball Arena, but I do think that 9 points, if it gets back that high, will be really close, kind of one of those nail biter type games. I think the NBA, as much as we joke about scripts and the NFL and the NBA wants this and wants that, I think they just want to see a really good series. And I think that is what we're going to get. I know you said you think it's going to go to 5 games. I actually think it's going to go to 6. I do think the Heat are going to be able to keep up some of that momentum. But again, ultimately, we'll not have an answer for Nikola Jokic. Che, any last words before I bring on Mr. Castellani and talk some baseball?
Jimmy Butler's play tonight. Almost made it play of the month. If this was game 2, it would have been.
Play of the month on June 1st. Oh, Che, I love
did.
you. You were born to be a tout, buddy. Should have done it. Play of the month. Good stuff from Che. Make sure you guys are giving him a follow at Steven Cheah, at Trust the Data. And Che, we'll see you back here on Monday. Let's bring in Chris Castellani. He's coming in to talk some baseball. And frankly, it's been a while, Chris. I've seen you at every single Tigers game. You've been out there just contenting your ass off as far as the Tigers go. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
And I've just been taking it easy, except for you should be kind of proud, or I don't know if I should be disappointed. I joined, I have some buddies that do kind of a survivor fantasy league, if you will. And I said, fine, I'll play. It's the winner gets, I don't even know what, and then the rest of the money goes towards a dog shelter. So I said, okay, fine, do it for the dogs. I gave out the Blue Jays today. Last I saw, they were up in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Hopefully they get a win for me. It's a survivor type style. You can pick any team, but only once. And of course, I had to go with some chalk this morning. I actually was hoping they would just lose so I could just be done with baseball. But here we are. Now I have some rooting interest. Talk to me about what you've been up to and what you got on the slate for today.
In terms of what I've been up to, yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what you guys have seen. A lot of stuff with the Tigers just booked. Not going to say whether or not our team made it, but just booked a Chicago trip for next week for the dozen. I'll be down there a few days in the offices with the guys. And then our match airs tonight. Me, Joey Camasta, Stu Feiner join along. Very entertaining match. I recommend all people.
God, what a team. I love that.
Yeah, well, we had to play for our fallen brother, man. I mean, Mintz was on the sidelines, obviously. So we had Stu come in there. And I think Jeff D. Lowe and I kind of came to an agreement of like, let's make sure that we can make this as entertaining as possible. And I feel like when that's the case, Stu Feiner is kind of your fastball. So we went with that. It was definitely a lot of fun. He was a great sport about it. We played Dave's team as well, Team ZD. So I think a lot of people should put their eyeballs on that because it should be a fun time.
Yeah, I love that. If only I knew anything about trivia. Megan and I were on a trivia team, and I think, as I've said before on the show, Jeff has just banned us for life. I'd like a second chance, but like preferably like now, like during the summertime. Like, don't ask me like October when I'm knee deep in NBA and college basketball, NFL and college football. Like, this is like the downtime when I would totally be like, I'll hop on a plane to Chicago and go play some trivia and embarrass myself on the Barstool YouTube channel. That being said, people are shouting out Mintz, #1 Brick Watch employee in the world in the comment section. All right, Chris, time to talk some baseball. As we mentioned, there has been some day baseball on today. Give me some of the stuff you're betting for the evening slate.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot. So I kind of was caught in a weird spot here. I had a hit parlay out there that is still could possibly hit with, let me think about this. 3 of the games were day games. One of them was a night game. So that was Bryson Stott, Mark Canha, Yuli Gurriel, and Jeremy Pena to record a hit, plus 363. But the 4 of those players combined against their respective starting pitchers that they're facing today, 17 for 25. So those are ridiculous numbers. So I went with that. Good value there. I have Guardians money line today. I think Cleveland is starting to play better, and they got one more, I believe, against. They play the Twins. The Twins are favored in that. Pablo Lopez is on the mound for Minnesota. I just don't trust the Twins. I still don't. I think the Guardians are starting to see the ball better. Their pitching is always pretty good, and I feel like they're in desperation mode to a certain extent too, where they're kind of at that point where either they're a team that might be selling at the deadline, or a team that could make a run like they did last year. I went Astros run line as well. I feel like I bet Astros almost every night. I get burned every so often, but I keep going back to them. And especially when they play the Angels, I just have such confidence in them.
It's interesting because I just had this debate. So one of my best friends works for MLB Network, and we have a group chat. And during baseball season, I don't say much because I don't have a big input. And she said, hey, what would you guys make the line versus Texas teams versus the Rays. I said, I don't know, like minus 130. And she said, no way, like minus 160, minus 180. And I'm like, okay, the Astros are good. The Rangers are good. Are they great? Should they be that big of a favorite over the Rays? Like, if you're betting the Astros every week, do you think the Astros are the team to beat? Are they headed back to the World Series?
They're in that inner circle for sure. I think there's a lot of parity in the American League right now. I think the Rangers have like overshot expectations like crazy. I think that is going to be a divisional race that's going to come down to the last few games. They can definitely get back there. I mean, even with some of the pitching injuries they've had, that offense is still really good. They got Altuve back. Some guys are starting to come into form a little bit, and they have the best hitter in baseball in Yordan Alvarez. So, like, I think that the culture's there, the roster is there. And they do have a championship pedigree. They are a very experienced team. I mean, right now, I think when talking about that argument, like who should be favored against the Rays, I think part of that is the Rays got off to such a historically good start that they were heavy favorites against everybody for a long time. They've started to come back down to earth a little bit. They're still a really good team. They'll probably end up with the best record in baseball by the end of the season, but they're starting to show a few cracks in their armor. So yeah, no, I mean, I think the Astros definitely have a shot. I mean, they're one of those teams I'm going to believe they've taken a step back when I actually see it. Like they've been good for so long that they've been good for so long that I can't doubt them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair. As we all know, I don't really like to bet the chalk. Obviously, they are the favorite currently in at the Barstool Sportsbook to get another World Series win under their belt. But I do think that maybe the Yankees have a little something to say about that, as well as the Rays. There's some under the radar teams, Chris. Any that you particularly? I'm sorry, I lied. The Astros are not the favorite. The Braves, the Dodgers, and the Rays are all plus 500. The Astros are plus 750. Yankees 12-1. And then the Blue Jays I mentioned today. Any of those catch your eye as potential possible bets to win?
I guess there's two teams in the American League that I feel like have a chance to get really hot in the second half. And if you catch them right now, you could get really good value. And that's one of them you just mentioned, the Toronto Blue Jays. Like they are a team that everyone unanimously agrees should be playing way better. And so, and because of that, because they have ridiculous talent, they have a really good offense. I think people are just waiting for that like 9-10 game winning streak that's going to come in the middle of the summer. Another team that I really like, they made the playoffs last year, that's been hovering around 500, but I think they're going to turn a corner. They just went 7-3, I think, on a 10-game homestand. Seattle Mariners. They made the playoffs a year ago, breaking the 21-year streak. They've had some injuries. Offensively, they've been underwhelming. Even Julio Rodriguez did not get off to a great start, but I love their rotation. I think between Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, like that's a legitimate 1-2-3. I could see them maybe, and last year this team caught lightning in a bottle, doing something in the American League similar to what the Phillies did in the National League last year, where all people talked about in that division last year for the Phillies were the Mets and Braves. And then all of a sudden that team that got 86 wins got red hot and made it to the World Series. I feel like the Rangers and Astros in that division could just beat each other up and be banged up by the time you get to, because I think there's two like 100-win teams there. And I feel like if the Mariners can just get hot in the second half, like the Phillies did a year ago, I still think they can be a special group.
Also interesting bet. I just looked underneath the futures market. American League, even money. National League minus 124. Kind of surprising there that the National League is juiced that much at the Barstool Sportsbook. But does that mean anything to you, Chris? Do you buy into the National League being 20 cents better or so than the American League?
Not necessarily. I would argue there's way more parity in the American League right now. I mean, every team in the American League East is above 500. So I think that some of that might be inflated because the Dodgers are on a roll right now. You do have some red hot teams. The Braves are obviously great, but no, I mean, I think that when you look at the last, decade or so of World Series winners, I feel like a heavy majority of them have been American League teams. So I'm honestly surprised to hear that number.
Yeah, I was too. That's why I had to ask, because I thought that just seemed a little off.
Yeah.
But again, sometimes these bookmakers know lots more than we do. Well, at least for me, when it comes to baseball. Chris, any other bets that you like for this evening on the slate?
Let's see. I do. Ryan McMahon, that game's about to start, I think at 3:40 for the Colorado Rockies. I got hot early in the season with a few home run props. They're really fun because, I mean, you put down very little money and you can win a fair amount back. So I originally had Chris Bryant to homer. He was plus 600, really good numbers against Zach Davies. Unfortunately, put on the IL like 3 minutes after I said that I bet him to homer. So I had to retract that, cash out. And then, but Ryan McMahon against Zach Davies, 2 home runs and 19 at-bats, really high OPS. And you're playing at a park in Arizona where the ball flies. I feel like, in a Colorado Diamondback series, you're going to see a lot of runs. So I'd honestly probably even recommend taking the over there as well. But yeah, that's my home run prop for the day. Ryan McMahon, 2 homers and 19 at-bats against Davies. And that's not a dominant Diamondbacks pitching staff by any means. So hopefully he hits one out.
And he is plus what at the Barstool Sports?
Oh, yeah, sorry. He's currently a plus 400.
Okay.
Or that's at least where I got him.
One.
Yeah, that's where I got him. Maybe it's changed, but yeah.
No, for some reason I got to get a new computer. I found out today. Apparently my computer's old and slow. No jokes, please. Don't be mean to me in the comment section, but it will not load some of the web pages I've been trying to load today. But 4-1, Ryan McMahon to get a dinger. Anything else you got for us before we let you go?
No, I think I'm all set. Just I'll follow Barstool Baseball at Stool Baseball on Twitter. Carl and I have been pumping out. I mean, we're doing 3 podcasts a week right now. A lot of fun with Chris Clemmer there as well. Hubs, we got a good crew. So yeah, definitely trying to get that off the ground. We've been working hard. So Barstool Baseball on the podcast feed at Stool Baseball on Twitter. Give us a follow.
Love that. Thanks, Chris Castellani, for popping on, giving us some baseball winners. Hopefully that Ryan McMahon prop hits, because I'm going to tail you on it. And the best part is, if it loses, you can just say, I mushed you. That's my favorite thing to do, is blame somebody else for my losses. That is not one of the things I put in my TikTok video today. It's not something you should actually do. All jokes aside, again, thanks to Chris, thanks to Cheah, and we'll see you guys Monday.